No, I didn't give up on the robot, and my brakes video is helping a lot of people. That's why it's doing well. Everything I've done on Twitch has been pretty small, but it's been building up to something. So, yeah, I've done a lot of smaller projects and finished them on Twitch. But when I finish the robot, for example, which I've been working on Twitch, that's going to blow the brakes video out of the water. I'll get millions of views. Alright guys, so I'm going to think out loud because I think that what I'm thinking about is really useful and you guys can learn a lot from it. So I'm gonna review what I've been thinking about, and I'm gonna review what I'm trying to write down right now too. Okay, so my goal is to allow video games to run on piece of crap old computers. And I mean modern games or any type of games to run on a crap computer. We were talking they could run on frickin' a 20-year-old laptop with 1 GB of RAM. No, it'd have to have enough RAM to actually load the game in. And so games have a minimum RAM requirement. But the video card and the processor usually form a big bottleneck, with the emphasis mainly being on the video card being a real problem. I think an older computer's processor can pretty much handle a modern game. Games don't have a lot of processing required per se. Mainly, they need a really good video card. I mean, I guess eventually if you get the processor old enough, that would bottleneck you. But I think like the goal isn't to have it run on a 20-year-old computer. The goal is to have the game run on a computer that's old enough to where you can buy it for $100. So like the last generation computer. I'm not talking 5 generations back. Then suddenly, yeah, it doesn't matter what you do. That thing ain't gonna work. Period. The processor would just be too slow. So I've been thinking about this for years. Do I use like how do I get the game's trying to tell the processor draw a million things with a million polygons and a million textures, and the processor no, the game tells Windows that, and then Windows is like, okay, hey video card, do all this crap, and then the video card's like, okay, I can do that, except it's going to take me 1 second. And so then you get 1 frame per second. And then the video card's like, alright bro, I finished drawing your frame. And the processor's like, cool, I'll let the program know. And then the processor tells Windows, hey, we finished drawing the frame. And then Windows tells the game, hey, we finished drawing the frame. And the game's like, W2F, I told you that a second ago. We're supposed to be getting 60 FPS. What's going on? This can't take 1 second per frame. So the game's pissed off and it stops running properly. And everything's behind and it's all laggy and the game is just unplayable. So that's a real problem. And that's kind of what I'm trying to solve. I want to run video game bots that can play modern games and bot them on older computers. I don't want to have to drop $1,000 per botting computer and then have the price of that over the next 2 years go down to, I don't know, $200, where you can sell it as a used gaming PC a few years later for a couple $100, and you just lost $500 in the value because the technology is no longer cutting edge. That's my issue with it. So your video game bot then is constantly having to deal with this overhead of constantly having to upgrade its hardware to hardware that can run the games. And the games just keep bumping up the polygon count, the texture count. And then you have to buy a video card that can handle all the extra instructions and all the extra complexity. And it's just a pain in the ass, because every time you get a computer working for a game, that computer won't work on that same game when that game upgrades its graphics, or won't work on future games because their graphics just keep going up. So I want to be able to buy the last generation computers, the ones everybody's ditching to get the latest computers, at a steal for $100 or $150, and use them for a few years. And there's actually a cutoff to how cheap a laptop is. If you buy an 8-year-old laptop and use it for a few years and sell it as a 12-year-old laptop, if you bought it for $90, what are you going to do? Sell it for $20? No. It's still worth $70-$80. Like, it went down $10 in value. It went down like 7% in value over 3 years. So you're not losing much. It's like a rental. It's very cheap to use it and then sell it off. So I really want to tap into that market, and that's what I've been able to do by turning game settings really, really low and stuff like that, and just being creative on getting the most out of an older computer. But that can only take you so far, especially when games just keep getting more and more greedy to pump as much as graphics as they can. So I've been trying to come up with, well then, how do I maybe simplify? Do I hack the game and have the game using injection like simplify its coding? So instead of saying draw these 10,000 things, I can say draw these 20 things, and then the video card will have less work. But then if you use game injection hacking to simplify the instructions, then the game might detect that. You don't really want to mess with that. A lot of games have anti-hacks, and any type of injection, memory reading, memory injection can be detected. And I wouldn't trust my injection methods as being undetectable. You know, that's a whole field, and that's a arms war between detection algorithms improving and then counter detection schemes improving. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. So I got to think lower. Okay, lower down the pole, what if we created drivers for the video card? We can then control the video card, and if it says, if the game's telling it to draw 1,000,000 things, the video card could be like, F you, instead of drawing your character with 1,000,000 polygons and 1,000 textures, we're going to draw a freaking Minecraft character. Instead of God of War, we're going to draw just a little Minecraft jumping man with squares and faded textures. So the video card then could draw that to your screen and then tell the game, yeah bro, we drew what you wanted. We drew God of War with all of his glory and 1,000,000 polygons. And then the game's like, cool, you drew it, that was great. It only took you 1/100th of a second. Shoot, we can get 100 FPS. And the game's happy as hell. So that's kind of where my idea stopped, and then I started researching how to create a video card driver, and that became a mess, because it's like, well shoot, there's no information on how to do that online. So anyways, I can catch up with chat after I'm done talking. I'll read the older comments. Okay, so the issue is video cards, from my understanding, are kind of proprietary. They don't want you to create your own firmware for them. And I was able to find one guy that kind of said some stuff about it. It's just very hazy, and nobody knows how to do it, basically. There's nothing online about it. The other issue would be, let's say I bought some video card, an affordable one, and I managed to actually write new firmware for it and got it working, which would probably require me to actually write all the video card's drivers and handle how it talks to all of its components and flash its firmware and understand exactly how it works and how it can talk to my Windows machine and interpret all the commands being sent to it and know how to respond and what to say back, and then have to talk to the monitor and know what to say to it and how to respond to it and talk to it and instruct it. And that would be really hard, but maybe doable eventually with a lot of effort. Um, but then what happens when that video card's a little outdated? Now I got to do all that again, fresh, for the next video card upgrade. So that sucks. So that is out. That's not a good solution. And then it hit me, what if I made my own video card then? If I make my own video card, I can avoid having to learn how some other video card works. I could just make a simple one that I understand. And everything will just be gravy then. And I think that's doable. I think I can find tutorials on how to make your own video card. Then it hit me when I started planning making my own video card that it would be really easy to make a video card be a Windows computer. So the video card could be a laptop, or it could be a system on a chip from a cell phone. So basically, that would be a smaller version, but it could be a laptop if you wanted to, because that you could buy a laptop for $80, but you could also probably buy an older cell phone. Yeah, you can buy an older cell phone for $100, and it would be about the same power as a $80 laptop, which would be 10 years old. So I'm thinking a cell phone I will make into a video card. You're probably thinking, whoa, what the hell? Like, a cell phone's not a video card, it's a whole computer with an operating system and batteries and blah, 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 blah. Yes, but if you open up the cell phone, on it is a little computer, which is a system on a chip, and it's got RAM and all that stuff. But actually, I'd want to keep the screen of the cell phone, too. That could be the video game botting computer's screen. And then it'd have a touch interface and everything. So I like the cell phone as being the botting computer's screen, keyboard, mouse, and video card. So this is how it will work. The botting computer, which let's say it's, a 10-year-old laptop or an 8-year-old laptop, which I bought for $150, because we're not trying to go too old. So $150 will get you a computer that's about 7 years old, maybe. You can buy an old Dell or Lenovo or something like that that's about 7 or 8 years old for about $150. You buy an older laptop, and there's a mod where you can put a gaming video card with an adapter and plug that into a laptop. I've seen it. You can actually buy this adapter kit, and it will plug into the laptop's, there's like a flat flex cable that plugs into the laptop's video card. You unplug that flat flex cable, and I believe you plug it into this adapter, which then plugs it into an adapter that's got a PCI. And then you can plug that into a standard, I believe it's called PCI. I think it's PCI. PCIe slots, whatever the slots are that you normally plug a normal video card into, it converts your flat flex that plugs into the laptop's mini video card into that form factor where you can plug in a standard gaming video card. And that was my first solution, just have an older laptop and plug standard gaming video cards into it. But this is a better solution than that. Okay, because then you don't have to buy a $800 video card all the time to keep up to date with the games. Because we're going to control what the game is able to even render this way. Alright, so take that flat flex, and we can break it out to, all the wires coming out of it. And let's say the flat flex has like, I'm not sure, maybe 30 wires. And all those wires are for talking back and forth, pretty much. Maybe some are power too. I'm not sure. Power and ground. Um, and okay, so it it outputs that, and normally that's just going to go to a video card built into an older laptop. But we're gonna put it into the splayed out wires. We'll put it into a couple Arduinos. Arduinos have 32 input output pins each, so that's 64 pins. So 2 Arduinos should be able to do it. And we'll plug that into all the Arduino input output pins. And then we'll connect those 2 Arduinos to our cell phone via mini USB. And now our cell phone can talk to the Arduinos and find out, hey Arduinos, what is our target PC trying to tell the video card to do? And it will give it all the ones and zeros that the target PC is trying to tell the video card, draw this, draw this, draw this, calculate this. And we'll be coding actually a desktop app in C++ on a Windows cell phone using Windows operating system for cell phones. So our desktop app is going to bit-bang talk to the Arduinos through serial communications through mini USB, asking them, hey, what is the target PC trying to tell its video card to do? And it will say, well, it wants us to calculate all this and draw these boxes and render all this and blah, 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 and draw all this. And then it will then tell its copy of Windows to draw all that, and then that will show up on the screen of the phone. But here's where the real magic is. It can also see the commands coming from the game, which were told to Windows, and then Windows told the processor, and the processor told the video card, and the video card told our Arduinos, and our Arduinos told the phone, draw a million polygons character. And our code, before it tells Windows to draw that on its operating system, will be like, no, draw 100 polygons. And it will draw the 100 polygons and then send that back. So, in that way, no, it wouldn't lag. Well, it would lag a little bit, but you can pull with the Arduinos and the USB and then your program very quickly through serial communications bit bang. Very quickly you could pull all that information through parallel communications. You could send a lot of information through very fast. It all comes down to how much information can pass through the lines, how quickly. But with an older computer, it's 1 FPS on a modern game. 1 FPS, we can beat that easily. And another great thing is we can lie to the game and tell it we drew everything and we didn't. So the game won't know. And our cell phone, which is acting as a video card, can tell the game, we drew the frame, we drew the frame, we drew the frame, and the game will be happy then and continue on its merry way, thinking the video card's keeping up. But it's not. It could just be drawing a handful of the frames. And it can just draw whatever characters it wants, whatever environmental elements it wants. It can limit the view distance to 10 feet. It can just filter out everything so it can make the game way more optimized. It can cut out all textures and just make gray bitmap textures, or reduce. It will have probably a texture catch. It could just reduce all the texture sizes to 1/100th the size. So if there was like a 600 by 600 texture, it could just reduce it to 60 by 60. It can like just downscale everything and just make the graphics look like crap. And the game programmer would have no control over that, because all he knows is he's sending operating system these commands and these textures, and Windows is telling the processor, and the processor is telling the video card, and we have control of the video card, so we can do what we want And as the video card, we can lie when we report back to Windows, yeah, we drew it all. And Windows won't know and the game won't know. It's just trusting us. So by us taking charge of the video card, the game can be clueless that we're downgrading the graphics unbelievably so. And no brilliant coder of a game could ever have any control over that if we're directly taking reins of the video card itself and becoming the video card. And what's great is to upgrade the video card, then we buy a new phone, and all the software for reading and writing, which is just a Windows desktop app, can just be copy pasted to a more modern version of Windows and a higher end phone to do all the calculations and do all the communications. So we would never need to rewrite this code again. It's future proof. And it can convert every game into Minecraft level graphics. And so this is a video game botter's dream. You can set up bot farms on 10-year-old technology and just buy cell phones to be the video cards and interface them to the older laptops, and they can run the most modern games, downgrading all the graphics to Minecraft level, and the game makers can have no way to prevent that or even know what's going on, because the video card gives an ID back to the Windows operating system saying, hey, I'm a Radeon ATI, blah, 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 and here's my serial number. Well, our phone, which is acting as a video card, can tell the Windows operating system, hey, I'm a ATI Radeon, blah, 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 and here's my serial number, and lie. It's not going to have to tell Windows, hey, I'm not actually a video card, I'm actually a cell phone impersonating as a video card, and I'm actually downgrading all the graphics hideously, and you can't do anything about it. Nah, 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 nah. So it's just brilliant, and it's all this optimization is happening on a different machine, a black box. A video card's a black box. It's not happening in Windows. It's not something detectable. It's not like you're using memory injection or changing anything in the pipeline. You're just becoming the video card itself. So the games can't have any way of controlling this or detecting it in any way. And I just love that it's future-proof because you can just upgrade the cell phone and it will just run faster. And you actually have a video card on that cell phone and a processor on that cell phone to handle all the processing and drawing of whatever it's supposed to be doing as the quote-unquote video card when it's actually just a computer pretending to be a video card. Alright, now I'm going to read the chat. I doubt it was anything useful, but... Oh, and by the way, one of the things I was thinking about was, how does the BIOS work? Does Windows... Okay, does a game tell Windows to draw a frame, and then Windows tells the BIOS to do it, and then the BIOS tells the processor, and then the processor tells the video card, and then the video card does it? I was trying to think, how is that pipeline? And then I figured it out, just using common sense. So basically, a BIOS is an operating system. It's a basic input-output system. It's an operating system that runs when your computer boots up, and it runs off firmware, EEPROM or something like that, and it can talk to the memory, like it will load into RAM, and be just all it is really is a program stored in EEPROM. It will load into RAM, and it will run like a program, and it will talk to the processor. It can talk to more RAM space, and it can talk to all input-output devices, like mouse and keyboards, get all them working. It can detect anything plugged in, USB sticks, it can detect all the hard drives, etc. It can even detect and talk to the video card. So it is a simple operating system. All it shows, though, is like a black or blue screen, a basic logo for your motherboard, and then it will show the thing where you set the date and time, and you can like partition stuff. No, actually, you don't even partition stuff. You just like change some settings, and from that screen, you can set the boot device order and all that stuff, and then it will then restart. You can click save and exit, and then it will run off of your USB or your CD, your DVD drive. It will run your Windows installer as a program, loading it. The BIOS will load the Windows installer program, the exe, into RAM, and then it will run like a program. The Windows installer then will install Windows onto your hard drive while running its installer package as an exe in RAM. And then it will reboot the computer, which will first boot up the BIOS. The BIOS will just run a bunch of system checks, and then the BIOS will load the Windows operating system into RAM and run it as an exe in RAM. And then the Windows operating system will talk directly to the processor and other RAM spaces and all input-output devices, the hard drive, the video card, etc. Windows will talk directly to them. Windows does not talk to the BIOS at all. The BIOS just loads Windows in and then steps away. So the BIOS takes the stage first, but then the BIOS is done and it stops contributing. So a BIOS is basically just an operating system that's simple, and its only job is to install your operating system and set up all your basic settings and run system diagnostics, but then Windows takes over as the operating system after that. So a BIOS is a simple operating system. It does not run in tandem with Windows. It is not part of Windows pipeline. Windows doesn't have to talk to the BIOS at all. The BIOS just loads Windows in and then Windows takes over. So that was important for me to grasp conceptually. Okay, you're worried about latency. The fact that somebody could run off-site computing has nothing to do with it, but the fact that the FPS of off-site computing is traveling through the internet through how many bounce stations and still you're able to play it in somewhat real time shows latency is not going to be an issue for a video card based on a phone that can be located really close to the target PC. So the speed of light is the latency. It's just a matter of getting the communications working quick enough. The Arduinos need to be able to pull from the video card pins quickly. They've got 16 megahertz frequency. I'm pretty sure that's plenty. If not, I could use faster, something even faster than Arduinos, but I'd prefer just use 8-bit microcontrollers. All they're doing is being middlemen, just so that we can interface into the phone through USB. Or we could try to interface to the phone through... No, USB should be fine. Although it might not be enough communications pins. Is that your concern? No, I think USB is fast enough. Couldn't you have a USB monitor? I mean, we're bit banging, so we're not limited by USB protocol, which is like I2C. We can increase the data rate arbitrarily as fast as we want if we're bit banging. So our software can actually make the data rate increase. We can hard code data rate speeds. There's never going to be a limit. I disagree. More and more parallel processing, more and more stuff. They can have you draw every leaf of mountains a mile away in a game. They can be completely unoptimized. Even the best machines now, if a game's very unoptimized, will still run like a toaster. So there is no limit to how much a game can F over a system. And so I need a way to take command back from the games and say, no, we're not drawing those leaves, period. And draw what I want to draw. So I become the gatekeeper. I'm not going to let games make me upgrade my computer anymore. I'll be able to run games that want me to draw a billion things a billion miles away. And I'm going to say, F you, I'm drawing only things within 50 feet of my character. And I can do that if I'm the one making the video card and the video card decides what it's going to draw. It can just overrule what the game wants. The printer is almost fixed. I narrowed down the problem a lot. I took apart the printer and I'm going to be able to put it back together no problem. And I know how I'm going to test two different parts to figure out what's wrong. An old CPU as a VGU would not work. Why? Because a CPU doesn't have the ability, you can't program a CPU. It needs to be a CPU and RAM. Programs run in RAM, and then it needs a place to store the program. So then you need a hard drive or a memory card slot, SD card slot. And now you're getting into cell phone territory. That's why I said we're going to use a cell phone. A cell phone basically is an old CPU, which we will be treating as a VGU. But then it has the bonus of having also a video card on board, which then we can use to actually draw to a screen. So we're just creating a whole middleman system where we can downgrade graphics in. All in hardware, so it can't even be detected. But what I'm proposing is just buying a used phone and not needing 4 Snapdragons. We're not trying to do a remote subscription or pay for that or offer that in any way. And we're also not trying to draw the graphics as they want to be drawn. We're trying to draw them as less than what the game wants it to be drawn as. We're trying to take control. We can take modern graphics and dumb them down into looking like Minecraft. Then we can not need such powerful software. I'm creating a gaming bot, and you want to know why I'm going in the direction of changing the graphics mechanism, and I'll tell you why. And I started out with that because I don't want to buy $1,000 computers to run modern games and bot them. And if I want to have hundreds of bots, I have to spend $1,000 per computer times 100. That's $100,000 to get a big bot farm going. That's ridiculous. And then every 3 years you got to sell off the bot farm at a 90% loss because it's no longer modern hardware, and then buy a whole new bot farm. So you have to reinvest the $100,000 every 4 or 5 years. It's not sustainable, it's not practical, it's too much capital intensive. But if you just buy a bunch of $100 laptops and cell phones, and they'll run for years and years and years on modern games, and you always buy last generation technology for a steal, and you can dumb down the quality of the game graphics, so you're no longer required to have high-end hardware, and you can always have previous generation hardware which is just sold as junk that nobody wants, then you've just won. Because now video game botting and setting up large bot farms becomes very cost effective and very low capital intensive. That way you don't have to make such huge profit margins on your video game botting operation to break even. You don't have to have as much overhead, so it takes the pressure off. Doesn't matter if the kernel has the control. The kernel is just a fancy word for referring to a part of Windows, but a kernel is at the root of every operating system. The point is that Windows, I'm all-encompassing. That includes the kernel or whatever things they want to say they're doing on the software level. The BIOS is an operating system. Windows is an operating system. The BIOS steps out of the way once Windows is loaded. Saying the BIOS has to do more with the hardware than the software is incorrect. All operating systems talk directly to the hardware. And that's what I had to figure out, and that's what I figured out. Windows doesn't have to talk to the BIOS to talk to the hardware. Windows can talk to the hardware directly. I'm not going to pay for cloud computing services and have my IPs located at a cloud computing center so that my games automatically ban me if I'm at an IP address of a cloud located at an Amazon server location, which the game probably is already watching for because that's where typically video game botters are located. So that's a stupid idea. I'm not going to pay a service to run all the hardware to run games for botting. There we go, all your profit margins. What, I'm going to pay $100 a month? So now I have to make $100 at video game botting per month per machine to break even? No. What if I only make $30 per month per bot per machine? That should make me a huge amount of profit if I can locate it on a cheap enough machine at an IP address that's not being watched. And I've got plans for that too. Thanks for the bits, Dimebag. I've already made a game bot, and it already runs in bots games, although it's on hold right now. I'm not running it at this second, but I already created the game bot, and one of my problems is that every 3 or 4 years, my game bot has to have all of the bot farm upgrade to better hardware, and I'm trying to get rid of the need to upgrade to $1,000 machines every time. And then have a terrible experience where critical gameplay elements are just not drawn. Dude, a bot is playing the game, no human's even watching it. It doesn't matter if certain things aren't drawn. The bot just needs enough drawn for it to be able to play the game effectively. Yeah, the settings and customizations only take you so far. You turn the game settings down to the minimum, it still requires hardware like super high end that costs, at least a $300 video card, etc. I want to be able to run this on a 10-year-old computer. Just setting all the settings to minimum is frickin' day one stuff. Eventually, you'll still need to upgrade your machine. It would not be easier to hack game files. And you want to know why? I already explained that. Because any type of game file editing is detectable. And you'll get banned for meddling. You can't do that. Talk about easy to get caught. Video game botting has to be done in stealth. No mods can be made on the target system that can be seen by the software of the game. They will find you and destroy you if you do any injection, memory stuff, anything. Bot instructions that interface with the graphics hardware. Bot instructions wouldn't interface with the graphics hardware. It wouldn't matter. I'm redoing the graphics hardware. All the graphics coming from the target computer to my modified phone graphics card, the phone Axis graphics card, are just going to be filtered through my own code, which can look through all of it before it sends it on to be drawn. And it can take out certain commands, or lessen texture sizes, or lessen instructions. It can do whatever it wants. All of my bot's code won't require a lot of graphics intensive stuff. It might just be console commands, just like, or maybe like a small menu. My bot isn't an issue at all. That's not graphics intensive. The bot doesn't even need a graphical interface, really. Dude, you don't think I've thought of that? I've been botting for 10 years. The first thing I did is lowered all the graphics to the absolute minimum, and even looked into ways where you can modify files or outside of the game settings to lower them even more. At some point, you can't lower it anymore. You're running the game in 800 by 600. All graphics settings are set to 0. You've hacked, done everything you can. The game is as simple as it's going to be. And when that is still too high in complexity for an older machine, forcing you to upgrade to a pretty expensive $300 or $400 machine at a minimum, even with all the settings at the lowest, then you've got a real problem. The phone would not explode. What are you talking about? The graphics instructions are not going to be a huge amount. The graphics instructions are simple. It'll be like, draw 10,000 things, and I'm not going to tell you the coordinates of where to draw them. Here's an algorithm where you can generate where all these leaves are going to be in this tree. And then the graphics card has to calculate all that. Well, I can just tell it, don't bother to calculate that. Just draw 10 leaves. And so I can interpret, intercept, and change the commands before they're sent off to the phone's graphics card. You just said something that is retarded. The operating system cannot talk to the hardware directly. The kernel, which is a root part of the operating system, does. And I said that I consider the kernel to be part of the operating system. Therefore, the operating system is talking to the hardware. You are saying a car cannot drive. The wheels, which are a part of the car, are what drives. That's retarded. The wheels are part of the car, therefore a car drives. I consider the kernel to be the wheels of the car. The operating system doesn't communicate with the kernel. The operating system and the kernel are one. You're trying to take some part, some aspect of an operating system and define it as some separate entity when it's not. You don't even need to know what a kernel is. You just need to know it's all an operating system. You don't need to know how the operating system works to understand these concepts. It's unnecessary to know that unless you're planning to make an operating system. Yes, I make cheats for games. Okay, just because the operating system has layers and the user layer might be limited by what a lower layer will instruct hardware to do in order to prevent somebody from hacking a computer and having the hardware start a fire in a house, does not mean that the lower layer and the upper layer aren't part of the same operating system. They are. It's just a protection scheme. You're trying to create differentiations and say I'm wrong when I'm not. I'm not thinking of botting. I've already got a botting company that I worked on for 10 years. And the latest problem I'm trying to solve is how to prevent expensive bot farm hardware upgrades from having to happen every 4 years. I never said filtering the graphics has anything to do with the bot. I've already made my bot. I just want to have a pipeline where I take control of commands entering the video card by becoming the video card gatekeeper, by having the video card located in a separate operating system, and that operating system I control, and it interprets the commands being sent out to the video card, changes them, simplifies them, and then it draws it. I know I'm talking about, this has nothing to do with the bot itself. This has everything to do with simplifying game graphics so that you can run games on older computers. We're not even talking about video game botting right now. We're talking about a hardware mod that can make games run on older PCs. I'm not asking how to write a bot. I already wrote my bot. I've been botting for years. The CPU would not get burned by the amount of instructions. I don't think that many instructions go to the video card. The instructions are optimized. The instructions are do all this math, and then the video card does the math. My instructions will be do less math, and then the video card will do less math. That's all you have to do. There's not that many instructions. And you would know that if you've actually coded OpenGL and you know how simple the instructions are. The instructions expand out to a ton of math that the video card has to do. But the number of actual instruction calls per frame are very small. Very small. Very little data is actually passing between the video card and the game. And you'd know that if you've coded your own OpenGL game engine, which I doubt you have. I have. Simple one, and I'm still learning, but I know enough to know that not many instructions are going out. Graphics are a huge deal in the platform of a bot because that dictates how much your machine that you're botting on costs. You lower the graphics, you lower the cost of the machine. You lower the cost of the machine, you lower the capital intensiveness. Simplifying graphics has everything to do with creating a platform for running multiple bots. Multiple bots are going to run one bot per computer. The platform is hundreds or thousands of computers. I want to buy the computers then as cheap as I can. To buy cheap computers, they have to be last generation computers that people are upgrading from, getting rid of, in bulk. You buy the bulk computers from companies upgrading their laptops for all their employees. You run the game on that. But you can't do that with games even on their lowest settings unless if you have a way to lower the graphics to a whole nother level. The only way to do that is to create your own custom graphics card. There might be other ways, but I think that's the easiest way. I've thought about this for a long time. And I'm just telling you guys my plans as a courtesy because they're brilliant and exciting, and I'm actually doing this, and it's going to be really fun. Let me just backstep a little bit. Kyler Stouffer, I apologize for saying retarded a couple times. That was disrespectful and uncalled for. You're clearly very, very intelligent, and you're just trying to understand what I'm doing. And you're attacking things that you think I've got wrong, but I don't. But I might just be explaining it poorly. So, plus I don't think you know all the background. of what I'm trying to achieve. The fact that you're thinking I'm trying to come up with how to create a video game bot just shows you don't know what I'm doing. Like, you're completely lost, so I shouldn't be hard on you. And really that's not, it's just completely missing the point. The point is to create a video card. Purely that. Just forget about botting. Pretend I never said botting. I'm creating a video card that will make a video game run in lower graphics settings than the game would allow you to set within its game settings. Because there's a cap to that. Games won't let you lower the settings beyond a certain point. If they let you lower the settings indefinitely until every character is just a box running on the screen, a literal cube, then I wouldn't have to do this. But games don't want their company to be reflected by, the most hardcore gamers are going to want to maximize their FPS, right? So they're going to lower the settings right off the bat when they buy the game to the minimum settings. And games will let you do that to a point, but they set arbitrarily a minimum, which they've got to run past the art department and past the CEO and the project lead. Where is the lowest view distance we're going to allow? Because at some point, characters are going to be like blind people that are short-sighted. They're not even going to be able to see the mountains that our artists spent a lot of time sculpting in the backgrounds. Like, we want a minimum view distance to be far enough to where people can see certain critical gameplay elements that we want them to see, etc. And the optimization teams have to determine how low the graphics count will be on characters drawn far off in the distance, and how, like, all the optimization work a game company has to decide on comes into play. And then the graphical settings sliders also come into play. So how much further optimized will those settings allow? And so these are all decisions made by the game companies. And once you've floored everything to the lowest the game will allow, you have to buy then a video game botting computer. No, take botting out of it because that's going to confuse you guys again. I don't want to confuse you guys. A video game playing computer, just a standard computer, just to play the game yourself. You have to buy a minimum graphics computer that can handle the game when the game's set to the lowest possible settings. And I want to not be limited by the lowest settings. I want to be able to turn them 100 times lower than the lowest settings you can do in the in-game sliders or the .ini files or any other way. I want to be able to lower the game settings graphically way, way below all of that. And if you can do that, then the only bottleneck you'll have left to run a modern game will be your processor. And I think that any game will be runnable on a previous generation processor. Maybe not 4 generations past, but previous generations. So we're talking, because I don't think processors are accelerating in processing power and parallel processing power anywhere near as fast as graphical. So I think that a laptop with a 7 to 10-year-old processor can definitely run any modern game, provided that you could turn the graphical settings down really, 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 really low. So that's the goal. Take the botting out of it. Oh, by the way, you guys will be impressed with how much less work this is than my last solution, which would have been way more work. And I was seriously contemplating this. I was actually considering just saying, heck with it, I'll just program my own Windows. I will make my own operating system, but it will be based on Windows, and it will be able to run all Windows programs, but it will be a custom operating system that I built from the ground up. And I'd have to build my own kernel, my own assembly. I'd recode everything. I'd have to create all my own drivers and stuff. but that's just not practical because Windows has so many drivers, and I feel like that's just a lot of work. I think it's doable, but that's really way more work than me just taking a cell phone, interfacing it with a graphical card interface, and then have it read in on that flow of information, interpret it, and simplify the graphics at that point, and then actually show optionally the frame, and then send it back that we did it. So it's going to be a graphics card. So I will have to know how to make a graphics card. I'm sure I can find tutorials on how to create a simple graphics card. Probably even starting with just how to create an LCD driver. Or no. The simplest graphic card would be how to use an Arduino to draw to an LCD display. That's like a 200 by 200 digital display. And there's like 10 pins, and it's just black and white. That's probably the most simple, and then I'll work from there. But I can do this. This is a path I can take, and I don't think it would be beyond the scope of what a person should do. Like, it's not a 10-year project. I don't believe that at all. I really don't. I think this can be done. Oh, yeah. That's another idea I came across, to change the instructions in the GPU itself. But there's no information on that. And as I said, if you modded a GPU, you'd have to mod future GPUs. So every time you want to mod a GPU, you have to learn how to mod that GPU. But by creating your own GPU that's infinitely upgradable, just by upgrading the cell phone you're running your computer program on, your mod is all just software that runs on Windows, and the same copy of Windows can be ported with your software to better and better computers, and you're running the whole graphics card as a whole computer. Make a simple video card which will interface with a botting laptop through its flat flex cable that normally plugs into its video card. Onboard video card. The same way that those adapter kits adapt laptop flat flex cables to connect to a PCI standard video card is to be just a Windows PC. Can be a laptop really, but ideally would be a system on a chip motherboard from a cell phone. Anyways, it will interface with all the communications pins, leaving the target PC that would normally run to its normal video card. And it will do this by using an Arduino or a couple Arduinos, and those Arduinos can receive and send bits through their output pins from the PC pins that are thinking they're talking to a video card. Laugh out loud. From there, the PC acting as a video card will read in through bitbang serial communication via USB from the Arduinos what the target PC is trying to tell the video card to do. It will then interpret those instructions and override them however we see fit. So most of them it will let pass through but some of them it will refuse to do, such as draw this character with 1,000,000 polygons. It will just draw a Minecraft character instead. It will need to emulate whatever the video card sends back to the target computer normally. So the target computer thinks it successfully rendered the frame, and the target computer is none the wiser. As a side perk, the cell phone can display whatever the target computer is instructing our custom cell phone video card to display, except it will be the dumbed down version. By using this system, we can lower game graphics, getting them to run on older laptops, which only cost around $100 to $150. Also, whenever we want, we can upgrade this cell phone video card by simply buying a newer used cell phone, and all the software will remain unchanged. So it is future proof.